Hi, I'm Ash from DroningON, the quadcopter and drone enthusiast website and community. Today we're going to be looking at OnagoFly. This is another Indiegogo crowd-funded project designed in America and China and manufactured in China. OnagoFly retails at approximately $259, which is about 230 euros, and it includes most of the features that you'd expect from any crowd-funded drone project these days. Those features include high-resolution camera, onboard GPS, obstacle avoidance, live video streaming, approximately 15 minutes flight time, and also auto takeoff and landing. One of the core features, of course, as well, is follow me mode, whereby the drone will automatically follow you around in the sky whilst videoing you. The project has had its issues. The initial 500 first generation batch sent to the USA backers struggled to take flight, with reports of battery issues, GPS lock problems, and also generally the control inputs not being responsive. OnagoFly have addressed those issues now by releasing an updated version 1.0, and that version is the version being shipped to backers from this point onwards. There have also been issues with communication, and at DroningON we tried to help that situation last week by interviewing the Director of R&D, Dr. Wei, as well as Zoe, the Director of Sales, obtaining answers to many questions that have been outstanding for quite some time. So we've been sent an OnagoFly updated version 1.0. We're going to open this up today, have a look at what's in the box and see how it flies. So first we remove the exterior packaging, and we've got a rather plush looking retail box here, which looks very, very good quality, and this is a really nice looking product actually. So I've now removed the protective film that was covering the box, and we'll open up the box now and see what's inside. So first of all, we've got a nice thank you letter. It's a really nice touch actually. It's basically from Sam, and it's thanking backers for their support in the campaign. It's a nice idea. And there is the OnagoFly. So first impressions is it's heavier than I thought it would be actually. It really does weigh quite a bit. The battery is installed, the battery is non-removable, so most drones when you first pick them up, or most quadcopters, they feel very light until you attach the battery. I guess that's the difference, but yeah, it is quite heavy. The brushless motors, really impressive bit of engineering that brushless motors can be engineered to be this small. They look pretty nice. The unit itself looks decent quality, you know, it's very solid. I can't imagine you would break this very easily in the event of a crash, so that's good. There's a warning label on the underside about the battery. Now this is one of the gripes that people have. The battery is non-removable, and instead of putting an on and off switch onto the exterior, there is a battery connector cable which must be connected and disconnected before and after each flight. So you can see the two connection points here. A few backers have reported in the first generation that these pins came out of these ports, probably from being a little bit too rough with them. But yeah, without question, this isn't a good bit of design. There really should be a switch on the bottom of here that turns the quad on and off. I think somebody will probably engineer an easy way of doing that, which would simply be to remove the plugs, connect these permanently using solder or similar, and then replace this hatch with a on and off slider switch, which simply breaks the battery circuit. That'll be much better. Looking around the quad, so here we've got you can see the camera port here, and as well as two sensors which are surrounded in an enclosure, which I guess is to focus the detection beam of the sensor. More sensors all around. These are all obstacle avoidance, I would assume. We have an SD port here, SD card port. Here we have a USB port. OnagoFly confirmed this last week that the USB port will be used for updating firmware. There's a button here, on and off button, I guess, but it's not a physical battery on and off button, so I'm not sure what that button does, but we'll look into that later. So overall, yeah, reactions are, it's heavy. The battery design isn't particularly clever, but overall it's very well made, it's very solid, and the only thing clearly that's breakable here are the props. So removing the top cover there. We've got a manual. There have been complaints that this manual is too brief. I mentioned this to OnagoFly last week, and they did indicate that they're considering putting together a more detailed manual which talks more about the features in depth, so hopefully that will be on its way soon. We've got the charging module. So this is the LiPo charger that you connect to the OnagoFly, and it charges the inbuilt battery. Again, a really nice feeling, good quality unit. What do we have in here? We have spare props. I've heard that we may get through these fairly quickly. They are very brittle, they're not very good, these props, and OnagoFly have admitted that as well, and have said that they are currently in the process of seeking new props now. And in here we have our power supply. Not sure what the tweezers are for, but nice to see a UK plug. Quite often you order products which are designed for the international market and you don't get a UK plug with it, so that's really nice to see. And we've also got in here looks like a power cable, yeah. Okay, so this is the cable which we use to connect into the OnagoFly to charge the battery. Now, I'm told by OnagoFly that the OnagoFly is shipped with a fully charged battery. However, it's always a good idea to top up a battery. The manual actually recommends the same as well. So the manual states to first of all connect the power lead underneath. So we get a confirmation beep there that that's successful. I'll now connect the power supply into the charger, which you can see now we have one LED green light. And I'll now connect the cable that came with the OnagoFly. So this is a really nice branded cable. On the ends of each port, it actually has an OnagoFly as well, which is really nice attention to detail. Of course, that's only useful if it actually charges the OnagoFly. So I'll now connect it into the base of the OnagoFly's charging port. And the charger is flashing rather randomly. So interestingly, shortly after starting the charging process, the LEDs changed from their consistent pattern of flashing 3 LEDs with the 4th illuminating to this rather unusual erratic flashing pattern. I suspect that I probably have a faulty charging unit here, but I'll have to query this with OnagoFly. Now, it would have been preferable to fully charge the OnagoFly before we start the flight test, but we can investigate the charger issues after this review. In the meantime, I'm going to insert an SD card first of all into the OnagoFly. Important to note that the writing on the SD card should face down when you insert it into the slot. There we go. Next, we're going to connect the power supply underneath, and the OnagoFly should emit a noise when we've done that. There we go, we've got the beep. And then we tuck the cable back into this little port. Now this is a pain, but it's very easy to do. My only concerns would be wear on the cable and on the connectors, but hopefully OnagoFly will address that. Next, we're going to press the button for power. So there you go. And we now see some LED lights here to confirm that it's receiving power. And a beep confirmation. It's also worth noting that on the underside of the OnagoFly we have some LED lights. The LEDs do indicate the status of the OnagoFly, and according to the manual, when the tail lights are blue, there is a GPS signal. When they're yellow, there is no GPS signal. When all of the lights are red, it indicates abnormal GPS or low battery. So it's quite nice to have those indications on the underside. So with the OnagoFly all powered up, we're ready to now connect to it using our smart device. So I'm using Android here, and the first thing we're going to do is to open up the OnagoFly app, like this. And the first thing it's saying is to please connect your camera, so we'll press that button, which opens up the Wi-Fi settings. I can now see an OnagoFly wireless network, which I'll connect to. The code for that, or the password, is 12345678, as per the manual. So we're now connecting to that, getting an IP address, and we are now connected. Now, interestingly, I connected to this wireless network via my laptop, and when accessing that, I could then, in my web browser, type in 192.168.1.254, and via that address I could access the SD storage card within the OnagoFly. So that's a quick way to get photos onto a laptop or a PC simply by connecting to the Wi-Fi network. So now we're connected, I'll press back, which takes us back to the OnagoFly app. I'll now go into landscape mode and press open your camera, which now opens up the OnagoFly interface. So I can see a live feed from the camera in the background. And if I just lift up the OnagoFly, move it around a little bit, you can see that there. So the live stream is latent. In comparison to the micro drone, it's more latent than that live feed, which means it's going to be harder to control via your mobile phone. But the quality is definitely better, noticeably better. So looking at the app, at the top left we've got the control for rotating, so yawing as it's known in flight terms. This is to rotate the OnagoFly around left and right. The control here, the joystick, so this is for moving forwards, backwards and sliding left and right. We've then got the lock button in the bottom left. Now if you press and hold this lock button, the OnagoFly will start up, as you can hear it there. Press it again, the OnagoFly propellers will stop spinning. So press and hold the button to start, press it once to stop. The idea there is it gets the propellers spinning and it gets you ready to take off. The other controls here won't do anything until the propellers are spinning. The next button here is the gravity or the tilt setting. So with this illuminated in red or orange, it means that the OnagoFly is going to be controlled by tilting your mobile phone. It's a great way for beginners to learn, but you must remember when you launch to have your phone flat. Otherwise, as soon as you take off, the OnagoFly is going to want to fly off in a certain direction. For your first few flights, it might be worth disabling that by turning it off. The next button along is auto land. So this button, when you press it, the OnagoFly is going to descend automatically and land on the ground. Next along, auto takeoff. Now this button is going to make the OnagoFly automatically spool up. The throttle is going to be increased automatically and it's going to try and get itself into a hover. Generally, auto land and auto takeoff features on drones and quadcopters, we'd recommend not using them. It means you're not in control of the aircraft. On the OnagoFly, it's yet to be seen. We're not sure if that's going to be a better way to take off or not, but we'll test that out later. And finally, the last button along is GPS follow me mode. So that button's only going to work when you have a GPS lock. And if you look into the top right here, you can see GPS is in grey. That means we don't have a lock. When you do have a lock, GPS will turn orange. Okay, it'll also be indicated by the flashing lights on the underside of the OnagoFly, which at the moment are flashing green because we're indoors, we don't have a lock. If I was to move the OnagoFly more towards the door of the house or put it outside, those lights would start flashing blue instead to indicate that we do have a lock. On the right hand side, we've got the throttle control. So this is going to basically control how much power is going to your props. Put this up high, the props are going to spin faster. Put it down low, they're going to spin slower and the OnagoFly is going to start to descend. So now we'll look into the menu. So these are our settings for the OnagoFly. First we've got movie size, which you've got your various options here for resolution. We have live view size. So this means that we can actually view the live feed at a higher resolution. But of course, do that and you're going to reduce the amount of bandwidth that you have available for controlling the OnagoFly. So I would recommend keeping that on standard definition. Loop recording, not sure. We'll have to investigate that and read the manual. Record audio is quite obvious, and this is a feature that many have requested in the micro drone app, the ability to record audio from the smart device whilst you're flying. And it's important to note that the audio is from the smart device, not from the OnagoFly. Obstacle avoidance defaults to off. We'll probably leave that off initially. Perhaps only turn that on if you know you're going to be potentially flying around trees or obstacles or indoors. Otherwise, leave it off. Smile detection, another feature that we believe hasn't yet been implemented. We could test that out later. Movie stamp, a few people have asked this, whether it's possible to remove the time and date at the bottom. If I press off there, you'll see that time and date disappear. White balance, very obvious. ISO as well, there to control the brightness and the color of the imagery that the OnagoFly captures. SSID is to change the wireless network names. You saw earlier it was OnagoFly underscore and a load of random characters. By setting a custom SSID, I guess it distinguishes your OnagoFly from somebody else's if you and a friend are flying one at the same time. Although I'd imagine they all ship with a unique SSID anyway. And password, finally, this is to secure your OnagoFly so that anyone passing can't connect to yours, so you can set a custom password for when you connect to the wireless. On the right hand side now we have photo and video mode. So this is to switch between the two. You notice that when I press that, there's a lag of a few seconds. One backer has commented that this causes you to lose a little bit of control whilst you're flying the OnagoFly. So keep that in mind whenever you're switching mode. Perhaps take off in the mode that you're likely to use rather than switching mid-flight. We have the shutter button here, so that's for taking a photo. When you press that button, there's a slight delay, a freeze on the picture of a few seconds. So again, think about that whilst you're controlling the OnagoFly. And remember that the faster the SD card you buy, the less lag you're probably going to get there. So look for a Class 10 SD card. And finally, we've got the album button. So by pressing that, we can look at pictures that we've captured. It looks like we don't actually have anything there at the moment, actually, so nothing to see there unfortunately, but we'll take a flight later and we'll be able to capture some imagery. So that's the OnagoFly app. First impressions are that it looks rather clunky. It kind of doesn't really have that professional look to it. It's not very intuitive, and you really do need to read the manual to fully understand what all of the buttons and features within the app do. Hopefully the app is going to evolve. It's something that they can change by pushing out updates. Always remember that Android updates will arrive quicker than iPhone app updates because of the approval process for iPhone apps. In general, as long as it allows you to fly, I guess it's just a case of getting used to it, but I'm hoping that we'll see some improvements in the way that that app looks over time. Okay, so we've now unboxed our OnagoFly. Let's take it outside and see how it flies. First flight with OnagoFly was in my back garden on a slightly breezy day. First of all, checked that GPS was in orange in the top right. I also turned off tilt mode, so I'm controlling manually. Held down the unlock button and gave it full throttle, and immediately my thoughts were that the OnagoFly feels very underpowered. It struggled to gain altitude anywhere near as quickly as most small quadcopters in this class. You can see that I'm given a few corrective inputs to get it in position. However, with GPS enabled and when you're not using tilt mode, the OnagoFly will hold its position automatically using GPS. You can give it manual controls, you can rotate and yaw around left and right. However, if you let go of the controls, the OnagoFly will hold its lock. And that's what you can see it doing here. I've not given it any control inputs for about the last 30 seconds or so, and the OnagoFly is staying pretty much where I left it. Now I am at this point in the shot. I'm rotating it around slightly. It is moving around a lot. It's vibrating around. That's mainly due to the wind, and my advice would be only fly OnagoFly on a very still day. It doesn't like wind. I've now decided to land it. I'm gradually giving it down throttle, and the OnagoFly is coming down fairly controlled. So what I'll do next is take the raw footage from the OnagoFly, which was captured at 1080p, 30 frames per second, approximately 12 megabits per second bitrate, and I'll run that through the warp stabilizer in Premiere. So this is Adobe Premiere, the application which you can use for video editing. The result is much better, clearly. It would be nice if OnagoFly had some form of onboard digital stabilization. Perhaps that'll come in a later version, but as you can see, the result is far better than the raw footage. Many of the backers have captured footage, and they all have this very recognisable wobble and shake, which has irritated quite a few. It's unfortunate, but a drone or a quad of this size is never going to be completely stable in the air, especially on a windy day. So as per the earlier advice, only use an OnagoFly on a still day. And that unfortunately is where this review of OnagoFly ends for now. There'll be a part 2 posted in the next few weeks or so. Unfortunately, after this first flight, the battery would not recharge. When we brought it inside and voltage tested it, it had dropped below the safe voltage for a lithium polymer battery, meaning that the charger supplied with OnagoFly and even my specialist lithium polymer charger would not recharge that battery. It is actually dangerous to try to recharge a battery once it has dropped below a certain voltage. So, OnagoFly are going to send us a new battery so that we can test some of the flight functionality. And in addition, we have also found out that the version I was shipped was actually the version which did not have the battery protection circuit to stop the voltage dropping that low. Hence the reason it occurred. We're not quite sure why OnagoFly designed a quad without lithium polymer battery protection, but they have corrected it. So, in summary, OnagoFly, it feels good quality. It is overweight, however. The packaging is very nice, and there are some nice small branded elements which just add that little extra touch of quality. However, contrary to that is the battery design and the connector setup, which is incredibly illogical. We don't quite understand why you have to physically connect and disconnect a connector underneath instead of there simply being a physical power button. We feel that it's underpowered as well. The takeoff, many reports of bunny hopping amongst the backers of this project. The bunny hopping is because it doesn't have enough power. Perhaps a 3-cell battery would have been better than a 2-cell, but then with 3 cells you're adding additional weight, so it's a vicious circle. The latency of the live stream is about 1 second, so you're not really going to be able to fly this FPV by just looking at the screen. Always keep your eyes on that quad, because the control inputs you give it are going to be later than what you're seeing live. The OnagoFly struggles with wind greater than 3 to 5 miles per hour, I'd say. Ideally, however, fly it in nil wind. And the setup procedure, very important. Connect it underneath the battery connector, place it on a flat surface, and that's very important, and then press the power button once. Then wait for the GPS symbol to turn orange once you're connected to the OnagoFly with your app, and when you're finished flying, remember to unplug the battery underneath. That's very important because for some reason the battery continues to drain. The supplied props are of bad quality. OnagoFly are aware of this and are seeking alternative props now, which will hopefully replace those that come with the quad today. And finally, the footage requires stabilization in post-editing. That's obvious. It's very hard to create a quad of this size that's going to give you smooth flowing footage without a gimbal. We expected it perhaps to be a little better than it is, and there is disappointment amongst some of the crowd-funded backers, but setting realistic expectations was perhaps the job of OnagoFly, and their promo videos of smooth footage perhaps set those expectations falsely. In summary, we do think OnagoFly has potential. I think backers are going to have to be rather patient with this one. Firmware updates and app updates are going to help this little thing get off the ground. There are some hardware problems. They can't perhaps be solved now, but I do believe that OnagoFly will be flyable via improved software on the quad itself and via improved apps. So watch this space. Part 2 of this review will come very, very soon. Well, as soon as that battery arrives.
So that's it for now. We hope that video was useful, and we want to hear from you, so be sure to like, subscribe and also comment on this video. Also visit our new website www.DroningON.co.